Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Metaworld News with headlines for the week ending 24th of September. And that is the year 2017, just in case you're a bit slow to watch this in replay. Right. We bring you headline news here about virtuality interfacing as far as any important new tools and things are concerned. But basically, we bring you news about social virtual worlds, worlds on the HyperGrid, which is the OpenSim platform, and some of the new breed of worlds like Sciencebase, and what's the other one? Oh, Cyber Lounge and High Fidelity, and there's a whole load of them. We'll bring you
many more, right.
Many more. We let you know when there's anything important happening, basically. And I do have a Twitter feed myself. You'll find it at twitter.com/Malburns, MALBURNS, all one word. And we have an additional Twitter feed at twitter.com/Metaworld News, all one word, the same as the title of this program. Between those, you'll sort of get a good well, it's a good way of following links for the things that I'm about to announce if you don't pick them up as I'm saying them. I'm starting on my own Twitter feed, as it were, the more general one. Earlier in the week, there were a number of YouTube posts, which I won't give you the direct links to, but I think I posted about 4, which was from this month's, this year's Silicon Valley virtual reality event with talks and various things like that. Okay, moving on to the blogs and news feeds and stuff like that. Virtuality-news.net. In a TED Talk in spring 2015, Chris Milk made famous the idea that virtual reality can be the ultimate empathy machine. And they now talk about looking no further than New York Times VR journalism. It's basically an article entitled VR, Empathy and the Refugee Crises. That's crises plural, of course, because there are more one of them. And looking particularly at what New York Times has been doing with, filming. And surround vision is what I call it for the most part. But, it is a form of virtuality and designed to be more compelling than just your average TV or text news report. Voicesofvr.com. That's all one word, voicesofvr.com. They have almost daily podcasts. I don't feature them all. They do go off track a bit. But number 578, 4 days ago, Advancing Immersive Computing with Intel's Virtuality Center for Excellence. They're looking at the work in that podcast that what Intel are doing on the high end. And voicesvr.com has the audio and a short write-up too. You can also, by the way, find all Voices of VR posts at rotovr.com. And sometimes, just sometimes, rotovr.com has additional text that the show itself doesn't publish. Right, another site called Hacker Moon. Now, hang on, I've got my glasses on, but I'm blurred if I can tell. Right. No, so it's Hacker Noon, as in noon midday. HackerNoon.com. And it has an article called VR is Giving Life to Dead Franchises. In other words, as your real world venture is sinking, take up VR and maybe get new life. It appears to be mentioning Rockstar Games, for example, as one of the parties who's relying on VR to pull them out their trough, so to speak, or give them new life. Sorry, I better be polite. Right, medium.com, always a good place for reading. This is actually a post that's posted on Medium from the World Economic Forum. It's written by Stefan Hall, who's project and engagement lead of Information and Entertainment System Initiative at the World Economic Forum. That's a handful, isn't it? So you find it at medium.com. The title of the article is Augmented and Virtuality, the Promise and Peril of Immersive Technologies, and is designed to be a sort of overview. this is sort of important because remember, the World Economic Forum is the kind of place where a lot of world leaders go to meet, or they send their top ministers and things. So however basic some of these summaries seem to be, it's what the power players are listening to. So interesting article there. Also at medium.com this week, a post from the University of Leeds, which is here in the UK, by a professor of cognitive psychology. His name is Mark Mon-Williams. Odd name, surname. Is virtual reality bad for our health? The risks and opportunities of a technology revolution. In some ways, that's covering similar turf to the World Economic Forum, but from a totally different standpoint, if you see what I mean. Right, little plus things here. Apple's iOS, is it 11 or something, arrived this week. I'm loving it. I can't believe what a huge change it has made to the operating system without obviously changing anything on my desktop or home screen. And it has AR facilities and things in it. Now, actually, this one is nothing to do with the AR facilities, but it's a stunning visual puzzler called The Witness, which has been launched on iOS, and it's been likened to a modern-day Myst, an open-world game which sees players wake up on a strange, colourful island with no memory of who they are, etc., etc., and they just go through lots and lots of puzzles. It looks an absolute blast. I haven't actually tried. I haven't had time to play it yet. Well, I'm not even sure I've even downloaded it, but it certainly looks like what I would call a virtual world to all intents and purposes. There are puzzles to be solved, and it's not clear whether it's solitary or whether it's a multiplayer component. I suspect it's solitary, even though there are several plural references to players. Just looks good. So it looks like the sort of thing that is certainly graphically is will be great on the iPad, I'm sure. And I'm a fan of Myst, so I noticed that bit. Okay. Our old friend Maria Korolov over at hypergridbusiness.com. She has put up a post, I've put it up elsewhere already, about OpenSim Conference, seeking presenters, volunteers and sponsors. And you'll find that at hypergridbusiness.com, although of course there are plenty of links around here, including to conference.opensimulator.org. High Fidelity, Philip Rosedale's sort of new world, should we say, platform, has announced support for digital ocean spaces, which is a scalable and cost-effective object storage product that addresses the most complex needs of high-fidelity customers. Basically, as far as I can tell, it is basically an asset service which will allow you to store your high-fidelity assets on this service as opposed to on your own computer in your own sandbox. I would need to investigate further, but if you want more information about that, you'll find it at prnewswire.com. That's prnewswire, but all one word, .com. And it was the press release is dated September 20th for your info. Virtuality-news.net has a post about a company called PMax. I presume it's PMax, P-I-M-A-X. They've launched a VR headset. What's new? What's new, I says. Well, this has 200 degrees FOV, yeah, which is better than most. But more importantly, it is an 8K VR headset. That means each of the two screens inside it are 8K, which is 16 times the resolution of your 4K TV. Well, I don't think you'll be seeing too many pixels in it. How it performs is another matter, and I very much doubt it's cheap either. They claim it to be the most graphically advanced headset available on the market. So if wearing clunky things on your head whilst doing things is your idea of fun, then maybe you want to check that out. Uploadvr.com article by Ian Hamilton talking about the startup ViaChat. ViaChat sort of qualifies as a virtual world. It is very popular with headset users, in fact, and it does allow multiple people to engage together in the same space and, basically do instant messaging kind of stuff in 3D, and also have little shows and watch things on a screen together. Sadly, well, the avatars are improving too, so it probably has a good future, and it's nice. It's an independent, startup, and it sort of it seems to have had a bit of a boost since AltSpace VR, the official company, ran out of cash and officially closed. However, they've now, ViaChat that is, have now actually raised $4 million in a Series A round of funding, led by HTC, who of course make the Vive headsets. So you can find out more about that at uploadvr.com. And who knows, they might spend some of that $4 million on improving their avatars. Right. Yep. Page back again. RoadToVR.com has a slightly interesting report if you're interested in OpenVR. OpenVR compatible headsets include Oculus Rift and HTC Vive, and principally the idea is you watch 360 video from YouTube, or actually streaming in your browser. And basically the news here is that the Opera browser, which actually is the one I use, plug, I'm not being paid. No, I'm not sponsored by Opera, but nice to know it. Nice. Right, Opera browser adds a 360-degree video player for VR headsets and is bringing in full web VR support. So good on Opera there. RoadToVR.com, another post a day or so ago. Actually, it's also another report on the investment. HTC is the major investor in ViaChat, by the look of it, of that 4 million we mentioned. UploadVR.com has a post called Echo Grotto Review. This is actually a review of an app called Echo Grotto. And descend into the depths in these brilliant VR caves. As far as I can tell, this is an app that rather nicely approaches, I think this is Photo Panorama, basically, where they've actually filmed the inside of a lot of caves and things, and you wander around in 3D exploring these caves. But I gather they've made it really interesting by linking them together, so you sort of can enter these caves and not only be looking around in the caves, but get completely lost because you end up in another cave and twists and turns and stuff, and it becomes quite literally a maze of with a virtual world which is just modeled on real life caves. That's my take on it anyway. And the Gorge Punk Games are behind it, I gather. They also released something called Frontier VR back in March. Anyway, it sounds like a goodie and worth mentioning. Virtual reality and augmented reality in education. This is yet another post from a company called Hammer and Tusk, and it's published again at medium.com, medium.com. And that was published yesterday, which would have been our Saturday 23rd, so you should be able to find it with fair ease. Meet the master of reality in virtual reality. This is supposed to virtualitytimes.com. Virtuality Times is all one word. And the best thing about virtual reality is it lets you experience some amazing places and meet people that are hard or impossible to meet, such as some bloke called Rembrandt. Yes, this is the reference to the master of reality, the sort of realism which Rembrandt brought to his paintings. And yeah, this basically is a virtual reality environment where you not only meet the painter himself, It was fairly roguishly convincing, but you know, his work, and of course it does have a sort of I won't call it photorealism, but certainly a realism about it. If you know anything about Rembrandt's work, so art lovers, there's one for you. Right, another page, last page, I think, and a doddle. I have a link here from yesterday to something called Group 3. Okay, you probably have to get this via the link on my Twitter feed, because I can see no sign here of an actual URL to give you. It's actually a post to something called Bitcoin Magazine. It's a magazine about Bitcoin, and it's an article on Hyperfidelity. In fact, Second Life creator uses blockchain tech to enhance new VR gaming experience. There's nothing new in this as such, but all I can say is the article is actually published in a magazine whose sole topic of interest is Bitcoin. So they may have a slightly better take on it than your average press release, if you see what I mean. Right, uploadvr.com. VentureBeats are the author of this one, and I'm not sure I like this at all, but this company started out called AdVRty. It isn't adverts, but it's AdVRty. You see the way they use VR in the middle? AdVRty. Yeah, corny, isn't it? AdVRty, anyway, is bringing native ads to virtual reality, and they've had the brilliant idea that pop-up ads in virtual reality may put people off. So their idea is to invade all the virtual worlds with objects that are a bit like billboards and things that you see in real life. You know, you're walking down the street and you turn a corner onto a main road, and then there's this thing that's bigger than the local skyscraper displaying an advert and changing all the while. This actually is their idea. They'll be kind of running billboards in virtual reality platforms, and but they'll be kind of an advertising agency kind of model. Of course, whether they've taken into account this vast diversity of different platforms, and you know, who knows how you'll make the advert for any given platform and who the winners will be in the end, I don't know. But it's inevitable the advertisers want to get in. It wouldn't actually surprise me if Facebook are looking at that one carefully for because of the way they're trying to develop Facebook Spaces. But that's another story. Right, Gamasutra.com. That's Gamasutra. And that's nothing to do with the Kama Sutra. It's Gamasutra, as in game. How neuroscience can pave the way for VR's future. An article about neuroscience and understanding technology in the market, but also understanding fundamental underpinnings of the human brain. So marketing meets the human brain. There you go. Find out at Gamasutra.com. Advancing immersive computing with Intel's Virtuality Center for Excellence. This is a different strand from the Intel thing I mentioned earlier. This is a post at road2vr.com. And oh, actually, well, it's sort of not a different strand. This is actually their repost of the Voices of VR that I mentioned earlier. But again, they've not only embedded the podcast, but they have supplementary information in the article that goes with this. My final piece from this feed, at least for this week, Autodesk. They make Autodesk Animator and all the rest of it. Go way back. A website called Tech2. The article is a short link on my feed, I'm afraid. Autodesk shows us how intelligent design tools and modern VR hardware are transforming construction. By construction, they are actually referring to the construction industry, i.e. the people that build your houses and offices, and how VR will they can check them out in VR and make sure you're not moving into an office they've accidentally built on a volcano and things like that. But also the interior design is very important. Right. Yeah, well, might as well choose the most extreme example. Oh, sure. Right. Having got that far on the main tweets, have you noticed anything, James, by the way, from the developers this week? I know you weren't at the meeting. Have you come across anything?
Yeah, sure, Mel. I did go through the notes that were posted by Shira Khan, and so So just a few interesting comments to take note of. Uh, one being that someone at the beginning made the comment that the meeting name should be the Virtual World Addicts Anonymous meeting, which I found that pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
A little bit of discussion about the monoscripting version, maybe causing some people problems. So that's something that folks might want to look into. Kayaker Magic, who has been a frequent attendee at the meetings and works a lot with projectile physics and things like that, reported that he's very happy with the raycasting command and the way that it's working in version 9. I think that was the context, working in OS Grid version 9. So that was really positive. And then just a little more, some discussion about people have been noticing some issues, HyperGrid teleporting out of certain grids. And in fact, HyperGrid teleporting out of specific regions. And so that pretty much was the remainder of the discussion as people are trying to nail down the symptoms and the causes of that situation. So I would say all in all, very productive meeting again.
Oh. I've actually come across that myself recently. In fact, a couple of cases, I've actually I've just jumped to a region for hypergridding, and I found myself stuck in the region, including our own open sim community conference grid.
Yeah, yeah.
And I actually had to quit my viewer and re-log in to get back to my home grid, which is very odd. Even the home button got stuck.
Yeah. I found the same thing this morning when I was trying to log in here to the studio, and a favorite that appeared to me to have this exact identical URL address would work when I put it into the map. It didn't work in another situation. So something that people are investigating, I suspect.
Right. Okay. Well, very good.
Yep.
Right now, we do have a couple of other feeds. As I said, we have a feed from Metaworld News on Twitter too. I'm just going to flip back here to see if there's anything there that hasn't caught the main news. Yep, there is a new client called MetaChat. That's META and then capital CHAT. This new VirtualWorlds client app for the Apple iOS iPad operating system. You can read more about this at ModemWorld.me, which is MODEMWORLID.me. This is an Arapace blog. The viewer works for both Second Life and for Open Simulator based virtual worlds and it's and the HyperGrid, etc. Read the article first. Minara does point out some of the drawbacks. At the moment, we have Pocket Metaverse, on iOS, which is a sort of text-based client. This is attempting to do more, but according to her review, there's bits of it that aren't quite up to par. It's basically a beta, even though it is in public release. So that's called MetaChat, and you find out about it at modemworld.me. Black Opal Designs have announced a move to a new virtual world called Sciencebase. Well, it's not new to us. We cover it quite a bit. Black Opal Designs, all one word, .wordpress.com, have published a release September 15th, basically. And they're the acclaimed creators of virtual fashions and wearable art in somewhere called Second Life since 2008. Anyway, they're going to be scaling back all operations in Second Life and moving their principal operations to Sciencebase. Interesting move indeed, because they are quite well known in Second Life at least. Right. I've mentioned Open Sim Conference, HyperGrid Business there again, mentioned that already. In our, Thursday Members blog, hgsafari.blogspot.co.uk, has a write-up of last week's Safari, which was a pirate week. They went to 2 different pirate locations, and amongst other things, parties and costumes and stuff, we were treated to a half-hour reading of Moby Dick. Obviously not the full novel, but you get the idea. Posted on YouTube, Littlefield Grid have got a YouTube piece up, which is a preview of their Halloween region. It will be October soon, and we know how virtual world people like to jump into Halloween early. Modernworld.me also has a piece on landscaping called Catching a Little Zen in Samsar, which is Linden Labs' new platform. But it's a walled garden, rather like Second Life, but different. Right, finally, I'm just going to check the odd bit here in Google+. Yeah, HyperGrid Business report that Avatar Festival opened yesterday. I was just going to mention that in a minute. Oh yeah, there is Leighton Margin has produced Avatar Fest 27 teaser that you'll find on YouTube. Very nice piece of work it is too, and you'll find embeds of our own last week's show there. So that is pretty much it for the posts I have in front of me. I'm just going to finish off by looking at a few contemporary events, and we have a little slide screen up at the side of the stage here, which I'm going to click onto now. And I believe our cameras will be able to bring that to you. The first is just a quick display we made up with this year's logo and a picture of last year's conference. It's an advert for the Open Simulator Community Conference. I mentioned that in the links a minute ago. December 9th to 10th of this year, and the course of missions and volunteers and everything else has gone out there. So you can find out more about that at conference.opensimulator.org. Moving on, a farewell here really. The Steam Expo has been running for about a month over on TangleGrid, tanglegrid.com. You can log in via the HyperGrid, tanglegrid.net, :8002:expo space aisle. You can see from this sign that today is technically the last day. So I put it up here just in case any of you wanted to go there and have forgotten to go there. You better hurry up. But do wait for our shows to finish first, as usual. Okay, moving on. Avatar Fest 2017. Well, you've been seeing this for weeks now. It is finally here. It started yesterday. I spent most of the day there. We have a safari stand there, and we also have a little Inworld review pitch there as well. For those of you who are watching live, I would remind you that we will be back on the hour with our Inworld Review talk show. And I'm just going to put up the little slide here, which in a couple of minutes you'll be able to read. And it's just a blurb about the Inworld Review show that we've put up at Avatar Fest. But that is a good summary if you're reading it now, because that will be going live with you this week on the hour, and we'll be joined by somebody from OS Grid. Right, let me get back to the other bits. This is something absolutely brand new. We have a closed Google Plus group for it. So you can apply if you want to get involved. The weekend after OSCC, but also we'll have a bit of a lead into it on the end of OSCC. We're having what's called a HyperGrid International Expo, and the idea is we will be having foreign language, principally European, it looks like, exhibits, and we'll be having a few talks that are in foreign languages, and we'll be trying to translate them. But basically, a kind of best practices of what's going on the HyperGrid, seen from the point of view of non-English speaking countries. And we'll be doing our best as English hosts, as it were, to try and translate the proceedings. But a lot of it, I suspect, will be show and tell, so it'd be fine. And yep, that's it. That's just the little bits of info I had up there. So as I said, we will be back on the hour with Inworld Review. For those of you who like long open-ended gossip, probably won't be too long this week, but we'll be getting some news from OS Grid, as well as smashing through a few other things that come to mind. So that's it for the news this week. We'll be back same time, same place next week. Have a good week, and we'll see you then. Bye.
You